Mastery of the world is achieved by letting things take their natural course. You cannot master the world by changing the natural way. Lao Tzu. You can see that in fact, we are living in a world where control is becoming increasingly important. In the workplace, for example, surveillance and control are becoming indispensable, especially with the advancement of technology. While governments increasingly strive to monitor citizens through measures such as surveillance cameras and social credit systems, this ironically brings about a somewhat paradoxical reaction. Because this novelty comes from a country that, like us, has drawn lessons from Taoism throughout its history. While modern society is entangled in the maze of control, Taoism still maintains the spirit of letting go and following the natural flow of life. On the surface, letting go may seem like an acknowledgement of weakness. But according to Taoist philosophy, a profound understanding of the nature of the universe allows us to approach life more intelligently and effectively. Instead of resisting the flow, we learn to harmonize with the natural course of operation, which brings about a kind of subtle and flexible power, a power that is not rigid but strong through depth and understanding. The Tao Te Ching, an important scripture of Taoism, was written by Lao Tzu, a mysterious philosopher. Interpretations of this text can be quite diverse. One approach is to view it as a guide for leadership. In the Tao Te Ching, Lao Tzu often emphasizes leading by, not leading, likening it to cooking a small fish. Too much interference can ruin everything. He argues that when leaders tightly control the people, negative consequences arise. We see that trust among people diminishes when the government interferes too much, and resistance arises when the authorities become too authoritarian. But when a leader does not boast and acts with integrity, people feel free to develop naturally. Clearly, Lao Tzu advocates for a passive management approach, one that applies not only to governing a nation but also to managing our daily lives. Because allowing things to unfold naturally is the key to nature performing its work, this applies to all levels. In this video, I want to show you some ways that Taoism helps us understand the power of letting go. First is the art of non-action. The Taoist concept of Wu Wei can be explained as natural action, or also known as the state of flow, but it can also be understood as non-action, meaning knowing when to act and when to refrain. When we look at ourselves, we see that the urge to control often predominates in many aspects of life. We feel that controlling pets, children, gardens, video games, and even our partners, as well as our future, is a way to maintain and survive. However, control is not always powerful. Sometimes, to create a positive impact, we need to loosen up, to let things happen more naturally. In our daily lives, control plays an important role in the development of human civilization. However, too much control can also lead to unintended consequences. We understand that nature plays a crucial role in our daily lives, and not everything can be controlled. For example, when we plant and care for plants, ensuring they receive enough sunlight, but any excessive intervention can hinder the natural process. Similarly, in attracting the attention of others, the first important step is to express ourselves naturally so that others know about our existence. In the flow of nature, there is an invisible force, an attraction that we cannot grasp physically. It exists independently and develops along its own trajectory, unaffected by human intervention. Like a seed growing into a lush green tree, this attraction also needs to be nurtured, but only through respect and non-interference with its natural course. In silence, we can hear the heartbeat clearly and understand more deeply. This explains why letting go is a crucial factor in maintaining relationships. When we let go, we create space for the natural flow in the universe to shine through. After an argument, anger naturally dissipates. And when trust is damaged, it cannot be forced to restore. It must naturally regenerate, like flowing water. Therefore, letting go creates a distinction between control and allowing. Secondly, embrace change. Taoist philosophers understand that life is an ever-flowing stream of opposites, between highs and lows, light and dark, yin and yang. We cannot alter that, and the best way to live effectively is to go along with those changes. Life is like an ever-flowing river, constantly changing and evolving. However, many people cling tightly to their branches, or rocks, fearing that letting go will completely lose their position in the stream of life. They dare not believe that the universe has its own natural power. As a result, they live a rigid life, bound by unnecessary fears and worries. They sit and watch life pass by, like distant observers, afraid to ignite positive change. Thus, they miss out on moments of joy waiting to be embraced. As Lao Tzu said in the Tao Te Ching, "The living are soft and yielding, the dead are rigid and stiff." There are also those who swim against the current, but they fail to realize that they are wasting energy in vain. They see it as a noble act, a sign of patience and courage in life. However, continually facing the natural resistance of the universe is not only ineffective but can also lead to unnecessary exhaustion and suffering. Opposing the truth that things are as they are often leads to a battle within oneself. This happens because when individuals are imposed with societal expectations, they often engage in a struggle against their own instincts, rather than accepting and respecting their natural qualities. It's more effective and considerate to focus on developing strengths rather than trying to fix weaknesses. Accepting change also applies to what is useless and useful. Taoist philosopher Zhuangzi recognized that the value of an object depends on the context. He illustrated this point through a story about a merchant who wanted to sell shirts to a tribe. However, the members of this tribe were proud of the tattoos on their bodies and did not care about wearing shirts. For them, the shirt was of no use. But for us, at least from our perspective, they are not entirely useless. Usefulness and uselessness are relative and cannot be assessed absolutely. For example, owning a car is less useful when you live in New York compared to living in a rural area where the next village is 50 kilometers away. So, we should be willing to abandon what is useless in a specific situation and instead apply what is useful. That's how we turn change into an ally, not an enemy. Thirdly, not focusing on outcomes. In a world where many are obsessed with chasing and achieving future success, the philosophy of Taoism emphasizes not being obsessed with outcomes. They recognize that overly focusing on outcomes can lead to anxiety and fear. Instead of fixating on distant goals, they advise that we cherish the present moment, where our efforts are dedicated without the pressure of an uncontrollable future. Zhuangzi emphasized that when we overly prioritize external things, we will regretfully lose our present selves. He shares about an archer, a talented master, who lost his ability to shoot when his mind was consumed by concern for the prize. The archer imagined that a piece of clay would stimulate his talent, but the result was that he shot very hesitantly. When the prize was a bronze clasp, all his shots became awkward, and if it was a gold prize, he shot like a blind man. Although his shooting skills did not change, the focus on external rewards has robbed him of concentration and confidence. People often become enamored with external rewards, but it's important that we don't lose sight of our ability to perceive and experience our present selves. This is not a criticism of desire, but rather an emphasis that when our minds are always focused on the future, we may miss the most valuable thing, the present. This principle is grounded in the concept of flow state, reflected in activities such as sports, arts, and dancing, where we truly excel only when fully immersed in each present moment. When we are completely immersed in this flow state, we focus entirely on the current task and forget about the future. It's like being lost in a dance, paying no attention to anything but the steps and rhythm of each moment. The last point now is letting go of excess. In life, letting go of excess is like opening the door to an expanded space for the soul to soar. Many people are often obsessed with climbing to the top, thinking it's the only place to shine. But those who have conquered the summit know it's not just a place of joy and success. It's also a place of competition and tension, where every gust of wind is strongest. Conversely, in lower areas, life can be more peaceful, with less pressure and fewer opponents. In life, there's a world full of opposing extremes, where scarcity and excess coexist side by side. If we blindly chase after the absolute bottom point, we may become wandering souls in the darkness. But there's a strange power hidden behind the connection to scarcity. We should ask ourselves, what truly matters to us? Zhuangzi observed a bird building its nest in the forest, longing for just a branch. Like the mouse drinking water from the pond, needing only a sip to satisfy its hunger, we too can find contentment in the simplest things. When we focus on the essentials and eliminate the excess, we open the door to freedom and happiness. Epicurus, with his keen insight, recognized that happiness is not something distant, but lies in living a moderate life and knowing that enough is enough. That's a path everyone can pursue with ease and stability. As Lao Tzu wrote, "The one who knows moderation walks the path of the Tao." When we pause and allow nature to express itself freely, we open the door to harmonizing with the environment around us. When we trust in the universe and embrace constant change, we have the opportunity to become more flexible and resilient, rather than rigid and brittle. The power of letting go lies in our ability to merge into the flow of time, not clinging to rigid things like stones and branches. When we free ourselves from unnecessary burdens, we become lighter to navigate through life, like clouds drifting in the sky without the hindrance of gravity. Thanks for watching.